What's going on, everybody? Hello out there, and welcome to the next installment of our clown show that we call the Justice Revolution. I'm your host, James the Patriot, with my ever so faithful co-host, Justice. Say hello, Justice.
Hey, everyone. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday indeed. It is Friday, May the 26th in the year of our Lord 2023. My kids are stoked because today is the last day of school.
Yay.
So, yeah, they are. They should be getting home from their last day of school for this year, or I should say for this spring, early summer in any minute now. So they're looking forward to that.
Nice.
Oh, Harrington, you're nice. Not a clown show. Yeah, I still feel like I'm a clown show. Some days I'm better than others, but anyway, I digress. So, so much has happened. My goodness. We've had a lot happening over the last week, haven't we, Justice?
Yeah. A lot happening everywhere. This is certainly an interesting time in the world.
You know, I don't want to make this show a political show by any means, because like I said, this is talking about how do we ascertain our rights, how do we stand up for ourselves. But I do find it interesting that formal articles of impeachment have been filed against whoever this joker is that calls himself President Biden.
The real clown show.
The real clown show, correct. So articles of impeachment have been filed against him by Marjorie Taylor Greene. So that's interesting to see what happens there. I mean, I don't have any faith or confidence in any of those people, whether they have an R behind their name, a D, or an I, or whatever letters behind their name. I don't have any faith or confidence in any of them to do the right thing ever.
I agree.
Because you're hard pressed to find anyone in that house that actually knows anything about the Constitution, about our rights, about how we the people are the sovereigns. I mean, they want to talk about how the nation is the sovereign nation, how the states are the sovereign states. But anyway, it's just something interesting. I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so anyway, let's get to some of the other interesting facts and news. As most of you guys know, a good friend of ours, friend of the show, he's been on the show before, Alphonse Fagiolo, has finally filed his long-awaited property tax suit. 97 pages long. If you have a chance to read it, he posted it in his group. You can download it. He's also asking for anybody's help to call these people and hound them. This is the media blitz that Steve Emerson talks about. So he's asking for everybody to call the numbers he has listed there and ask when they're going to file an answer to the suit. You know, he does ask that you don't mention that you know Alphonse or any of that, but he just say, hey, I found this property tax suit that was filed, because as of right now, it's public information. When do you guys plan on filing an answer? And some of these allegations in here are pretty damning. How are you guys going to answer this? So, I mean, we talked about this a little bit on that episode when we had Alphonse with us about property taxes and how they were and what their intention is for and how they're being misapplied to all of us. But it is, when you read his suit, it's enlightening. Did you have a chance to look at it or read it?
I didn't see it. Can you post it in our Telegram group?
Let me see.
For some reason, I keep losing access to Alphonse's group, and he said it's the bots or the whatever.
It's gotten pretty bad before. Let me see if I can search for it, and I'll do that quick.
Yeah, this way, because there's been other people that say they get mysteriously kicked out and stuff. So he's got some issues with his group there. So
yeah, I've noticed that too. I've had a few bots or whatever that keep contacting me. They're saying that they're him, and it's just, it gets very annoying. So yeah. I'll have to find it and I'll post it in our group after the show. But it is an interesting suit for sure. So Thomas, hello, welcome from Sweden. That's awesome. My grandpa actually lived in Sweden for 3 years. So he spoke Swedish. He's since passed away, but he loved Sweden, loved the people of Sweden. So welcome.
Yeah.
Okay, how about we get to the meat and potatoes?
Okay. Do it. Everybody's chomping at the bit, James.
Everybody's chomping, but poor Harrington, he was just like, he's got all of these comments on the show before the show even started. So
let's see. Anything we need to answer?
Yeah, let's talk about the topic at hand in income taxes. What are they? What are they for? Are we required? Are we as people of this country, are we required to pay them? All of the above. So let's start with the basics, shall we? Let me get to where I want to first, and then I will share my screen. Actually, let me just go ahead and share my screen now. So sometimes I find it's good that if I'm just working through the process on the screen. So for those of you who are watching, you can follow along. So, and then for those of you who are listening, I am going to talk through everything I'm doing as best as I can. So,
yeah, I like when you do the process on the screen because it's like a workshop.
Yeah. I what I want to do is I want to try and keep things as simple as possible. I'm a big proponent of the KISS theory. Keep it as simple as possible. Of course, this guy I've been trying to get a hold of for the last 3 days is finally calling me back. Figures. Anyway, so when I want to know the basis of everything, right? So I had this conversation with Brooke in Georgia. We had her on the show a few weeks ago. If I want to have an understanding of where am I going with things, for example, if I am being told by a government official or someone that I have to do something, I'm the weirdo. And maybe this is because of my whole entire perspective on life has changed over the last couple of years, but I want to find, okay, where is the authority? By what authority? Where are you coming from with this? Does that make sense, Justice, what I'm saying?
Yeah. I actually just had that discussion this morning with my husband, and we were, these fictitious titles that we get to do our job and get currency or money or whatever you want to call it for our livelihood does not give anybody authority over another human being.
Yeah. So again, Steve Emerson has said it best. And you guys, I'm going to share something with you that if you follow this advice, or really, I mean, it's just, I don't want to come out and call it a maxim of law, but it's so simple. It just makes so much sense that it really should be. Steve has said this: if I can't make you do something, you can't make me do it. And the same is true from anyone, even if they're claiming to be from the state government or the federal government. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they wear a badge or a vest that has 3-letter agencies printed on it. If you can't make them do it, they cannot make you do it. Okay? Very simple. So when I first started diving into this, now I'm going to give you a little bit of backstory. What I'm going to cover today is what I have done personally. I'm not going to share specific documents with you because some of the processes that I've learned this from is behind a paywall on a paid site, but I will tell you it's worth the money. Join them, and I'll show you where that's from here in a few minutes. But what I will tell you is the information that I've learned has been invaluable because we have all been lied to. So when I was learning this process, I said, okay, where is this basis coming from? Income taxes. Where does that come from? So let's start with the basic. Let's go to the Constitution. Now I'm at my favorite site. This is Cornell Law School. Cornell actually happens to be one of my customers, which is really cool.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So the Cornell University Police Department is one of my customers, and they're good people. Very, very good people. So this is law.cornell.edu. They have everything here from the federal Constitution to United States codes to Supreme Court to federal rules of civil procedure. It's a very easy laid out website. So I'm going to start with the Constitution, right? Because what is the Constitution again, Justice? What is the Constitution? What does it do, and what was its purpose?
To hold the government accountable to protect our rights.
So essentially, it's a contract. If you notice here on the screen, it's laid out how contracts typically are laid out. Article 1, Section 1, Article 2, Section 1, Article 3, and so on. So a lot of contracts, and even back in the day when this was written, back in 1786, 87, when they were writing this Constitution, that was very common at the time. So they laid out this Constitution accordingly. Okay. Now remember that the Declaration of Independence has stated that we hold 3 truths to be self-evident. Do you remember what those truths are, Justice?
Life, liberty, and right to property.
Yeah, pursuit of happiness is what is stated in the Declaration of Independence, but it originally stated property, but at the time, property consisted of other human beings, and so they changed that. You're correct, right? All men are created equal, and they're endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. So that's what is known, or what is commonly referred to as God's law or natural law. Our rights, it's self-evident. I have a right to live. I have a right to be here. I have a right to protect my life. I have a right to pursue my happiness. I have a right to earn a living. That's a right that I have. So when the U.S. Constitution was written, this was going, okay, we the people, right here under the preamble, right? We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America, right? The first 3 words, we the people. You guys notice in my banner behind my head, we the people. So if we the people hold the ultimate sovereignty, the ultimate power, we are delegating certain powers to the federal government to ensure all of those things, to establish justice.
It's the only reason we elected these people.
Correct. To ensure domestic tranquility, to provide for the common defense. This one gets this line here, promote the general welfare. This line gets misconstrued all the time. Well, the Constitution says that we have a duty. The United States has a duty to promote the general welfare. That does not mean hand out money. That is not
a welfare check.
No. It does not mean what that says. So, and I love it. For those of you who are watching, there's a little reference here to Schoolhouse Rock. I love Schoolhouse Rock.
Yeah.
It was great. It was a great way to teach people, and I feel like we've gone too far away from it. Okay? So, going back to what I'm talking about. By what authority? Someone is saying that you must pay taxes. Okay. Where's that authority? Because again, if I, as one of the people, if I am the one that gives the government its power, did we give the government the power to tax us? Well, let's find out. Okay. Article 1 is the legislative branch. Talks about all the different things that the legislative branch is. It's the branch that consists of the most power. Now, you always hear about the 3 separate but equal branches of government. However, I would argue that the legislative branch ultimately has the most power, even though the other 2 branches can hold them in check. So Section 8.
Well, clarify that, James. Why do you feel they have the most power?
Well, because
the laws.
Yeah, because again, they're the branch that is tasked with creating laws that are supposed to be in harmony with this Constitution. I say supposed to be because it's rare that you find any laws that are passed today that are.
Right.
Okay. That's why it's and the same is true in any state that you're in. It doesn't matter if you're, here in Utah where I live, or if you're in any other state of this wonderful union that we're in. Okay. The purpose of the legislative branch was to create laws that are in harmony with not only the federal Constitution, but also your state Constitution, that enforce the will of the people. That's what this is for. Okay. So I hope that makes sense, and I hope that comes across that way. So when the founders got together and said, okay, we've already declared our independence from Great Britain. We have stated in that declaration that governments are instituted among men to protect our rights. Okay, so what can the government do? What are they allowed to do? Well, for those of you who are watching on the screen here, I have Article 1, Section 8. We went over this a while ago under the enumerated powers of Congress. What can Congress actually do? If you guys remember, we had our guest Kirk Pendergrass on. So under Section 8, Congress has the power to do a number of things. We've already talked about this. One of those things, the very first one, states that Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises, to pay the debts and provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States. But all duties, imposts, and excises shall be uniform throughout the United States. Okay. Duties, imposts, and excises. Justice, do you know what those kind of taxes are? You're on mute, by the way. Justice, you're on mute.
Sorry.
There we go.
So isn't duties sales tax?
No. So duties and imposts are actually, they have to do with import and exportation of goods from inside and outside of the United States.
Right.
Excises are what you're thinking of, are sales taxes.
Okay.
Taxes on the sale of goods within the United States. Correct. So the founders knew, is like, hey, we've got to have a way. We've got to have a way to be able to fund the government. Yeah, Etain says it perfectly. Excise is a privilege tax. Perfect. So we have to have a way to fund the government. How do we do that? Well, we're going to, you can see there, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Clause 3, they have the power to regulate commerce with foreign nations and among the several states. Okay, so that means it's commercial. So the only way we can fund the government is by setting up rules and regulations, i.e. laws, in accordance with this Constitution, that we can charge an excise tax, meaning a privilege of doing business. That's what that is. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what under Article 1, Section 8, that is listed there. Okay. Does that say anything about income taxes?
No.
So where do we get income taxes from? Any idea?
The fake IRS.
There was actually an amendment. Now, you're going to have some people that are going to argue that this amendment was never ratified. There have been people who have gone to court and have made that argument. I'm here to tell you it's the wrong argument to make, because they're making the wrong assumption. Now, Justice, when we read this, let's just read this. This is the 16th Amendment to the United States Constitution. Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes on incomes from whatever source derived, without apportionment among the several states and without regard to any census or enumeration.
But your labor is an income. If you have a business, you're making income because your labor is a valuable commodity, if you will, that you're trading for money.
Okay. So when we read that, what does an individual of common intelligence, what do you take away from that?
That's what I take away. Well, is income is what you're making when you're making profit on products or businesses or something like this. Because that's what I learned. In elementary school, you go to work, you trade your time for money, and your time is valuable. You're exchanging labor for money.
Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna tell you all what my interpretation of this was before I really dug down and understood what my rights are.
Mm-hmm.
To the common man such as myself of common intelligence, I read that and go, oh, looks like they have power to collect tax on incomes. Well, I make income. So based off of that, it looks like Congress has that power. I'm here to tell you that is the big lie that everyone has been sold. The 16th Amendment, there have been multiple cases at the Supreme Court level and also at any state's courts and all of these things. The 16th Amendment does not, and I repeat, it does not grant Congress any new taxing powers. So what did we just learn? Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1. What did we just learn there, Justice?
I don't know.
Article 1,
every
Clause
now
8.
and then I phase out to make sure the channels are running properly because I produce this guy, so I apologize.
I know. And everybody, we apologize. We have been out with our ever faithful co-host Erica for quite some time. She's been up to her neck in moving in her new property. She promises she'll be back with us soon. We were hoping to have another co-host today, and she wasn't able to join us. So
Yeah,
I'm putting Justice on the spot here.
Yeah. So I try to run all the channels and things that behind the scenes that are going on. So I zone out from time to time. So I apologize. But so
it's okay.
Re-educate me. Do it again.
It's okay. You're okay. So Article 1,
we're
Section
like
8.
Abbott and Costello. You're the smart one, and I'm the stupid one.
That's not true. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1. Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises. Gotcha. Yeah. But they all must be uniform throughout the United States. So now what did we just learn? Those are all commercial terms. Duties, imposts, and excises are commercial-based taxes.
Right.
So if the 16th Amendment didn't grant Congress any new taxing powers, then what did it grant Congress to do? If it gives Congress the power to tax incomes, but it didn't grant them new taxation powers, what did it give them the power to do? You actually said it earlier just a second ago, Justice.
It's taxing businesses, right?
Exactly. Right. So an excise tax is a privilege tax, we learned, right? So there's up until that time, there were sales taxes that were in place. People would pay a tax on the goods and services they purchased, and governments would pay a tax on the goods and services they sold. So now what the 16th Amendment does is it granted Congress the power to tax the business income in addition to. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So.
But that's the trick. Because technically your wages are not income.
Yeah. I don't know that we're going to have enough time in this episode to go over all of the ins and outs of all of these things. I'm going to do the best I can. I just want everyone to know and understand the only entities, and I say this, and actually let me see if I can pull up this case that I was looking at. The only entities that have power to be taxed, the only entities that can be taxed by the government are entities that were created under the government. So, Justice, were you created under the government? You're shaking your head no, but remember, we have people listening.
No, I forgot. Yeah, no.
Yeah, no.
Out there in podcast land, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm going to give you guys a really good case. There's actually a couple of them. Hale versus Henkel is one we talk about all the time. Mm-hmm. This is another one. Redfield versus Fisher. This is what the justices in that case said. The individual, unlike the corporation, cannot be taxed for the mere privilege of existing. The corporation is an artificial entity which owes its existence and charter powers to the state. But the individual's right to live and own property, this is another one, are natural rights for the enjoyment of which an excise cannot be imposed. That's pretty damning right there, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So with that in mind, now that we know what the limitations and duties are of Congress as it relates to taxation, now we know that the 16th Amendment didn't grant them any new taxation powers. It only granted them the ability to tax the incomes of businesses and corporations in addition to excises. So how in the world have we all been led to believe that because we live in this United States of America that we must pay income taxes? How does that happen?
Again, the crooked fake IRS.
The
That's
IRS,
the bottom line. The bottom line is
y-
you've got criminals that create fictitious organizations that want to rob you, and that's it in a nutshell. They
that
can
is
line
that
their
is
pockets.
that is true. That is true. We have all been lied to,
Yeah.
and we've been lied to because the companies that we work for have been led to believe they're required by law
Mhm.
to withhold monies from your paycheck to send to the IRS on your behalf so that you can pay taxes.
Yep.
There's no law requiring that at all.
And the sad part is where the criminal action comes in, that if you don't do it, you suffer penalties for
Exactly. So the issue is if you go in and make the wrong arguments, like all of these people do, instead of making the right argument of saying, whoa, 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 hold on a second, I'm not a taxpayer. Because a taxpayer is defined as a corporation, as something that was incorporated and organized under the laws of this nation or under the laws of this state. Okay? So let me tell you what I did. Okay? Before I do that, I want to share with you. Harrington was asking a couple questions before the show. There is, if you guys go over into our Telegram group and search in our files for the Steve Emerson files, there is a petition in that file that you're going to find. And it's called the U.S. Tax Court Petition. Okay. I'm sharing it on my screen right now. I did not write this document. I didn't write this. This is something that Steve Emerson came up with. But you, as an individual, as one of the sovereign people of this nation, you have a right to seek clarification on certain issues. Now, oftentimes what happens is if you have been filing your income taxes and you just up and decide, okay, I'm done, I'm not doing this anymore, and you just don't file anything, oftentimes you'll get something from the IRS along the lines of a notice of deficiency or something like that, which basically says, hey, we noticed that you haven't paid your taxes this year. It looks like you owe us this money. So what Steve Emerson did is he came up with this tax petition here. And I don't know if this Harry O'Donnell is a real person or not. I don't think he is. I think it was just written up this way. But the arguments that are being made in this petition are the arguments you absolutely must make. If you truly want to live your life free from government intrusion, these are the arguments you must make. So let's talk about this. This is a petition. He's got Harry O'Donnell is the petitioner. The respondent is the commissioner of the Internal Revenue Service. So the commissioner of the IRS. And this is what it states. It says, petitioner Harry O'Donnell, as one of the sovereign people of the Union State of California, claiming all rights known and unknown and waiving none, hereinafter referred to as petitioner, seeking assistance from this court to protect petitioner's rights and interest in the above captioned case. Petitioner is seeking clarity from the commissioner of the IRS in their tax records to return all payments made by petitioner for whatever year. Then he talks about that he's filing this petition pursuant to a tax court rule. Again, this document is anybody can download this. This is directly from the Steve Emerson files. So Diesel is asking the question, Justice, how do we get on your Telegram? Maybe you can drop a link to our Telegram channel in there. So, all right. So the basis for the petition. It says petitioner files this petition in accordance with the tax rule 34B to dispute the purported notice of deficiency for the tax year, in this case it says 2013, for the $40,000 with penalties of $7,000 procured and manufactured by employees of the IRS. See Exhibit A. So Exhibit A here would be that notice of deficiency I just talked about. Statement of fact. Petitioner is seeking a validation that is competent evidence and strict proof that respondent is truly acting within the scope of his or her fiduciary relationship to petitioner concerning this matter. Petitioner has no knowledge of any known duty or legal responsibility to perform any obligation with respondent. Okay, so here's the clarification of the following issue. In fairness and in interest of petitioner and all of the people of the state of California and the United States, demand is hereby made requesting that clarification be provided to petitioner by respondent forthwith to better aid petitioner in the understanding of the following. Taxpayer defined. Now, you remember I said a number of people have gone to court and argued that the 16th Amendment is unconstitutional. None of them have been successful. They were all making the wrong arguments. Says here,
kind of like the mortgage.
Exactly. You got to find that right argument. What's the argument we need to be making? Well, this is it right here. Taxpayer defined. According to the notice of deficiency and the notice of penalty charge procured by employees of respondent, the IRS refers to petitioner as a taxpayer. The Code of Federal Regulations and the IRS Code Title 26 appears to define the taxpayer and or person to be some individual officer or employee of a trust, estate, partnership, association, company, or corporation under a duty to perform or subject to any internal revenue tax. And then he lists out the federal regulations and the 26 USC Internal Revenue Code. Now, he brings in a case here. In common usage, the term person does not include the sovereign, and statutes employing the word are ordinarily construed to exclude it. That's the U.S. v. United Mine Workers of America.
And
the word
is the person's is identified as not a sovereign. Is that correct?
Correct. So I'll get to that here in a second, right? Okay. Here's another case. The word person in legal terminology is perceived as a general word which normally includes in its scope a variety of entities other than human beings. Church of Scientology versus U.S. Department of Justice.
Tricky.
Okay, and here's the next thing. Reasonable compensation for labor or services rendered is not profit. Mm-hmm. Okay, so with this petition, here's the relief that they seek. Petitioner requests that the Commissioner of the IRS provide copies of any and all official and supporting documents in their possession procured in accordance with the United States Internal Revenue Code, including but not limited to numeric or alphanumeric sections and subsections of said code, that clearly evidences in plain language that petitioner has a duty to perform any obligation with the respondent and is subject to any internal revenue tax. Okay? Here's another really great case. A person liable for a tax is a person subject to a tax and comes squarely within the definition of a taxpayer in the statute. Excuse me. The definition of income approved by this court is the gain derived from capital, from labor, or from both combined, provided to be understood to include profits gained through sale or conversion of capital assets. Therefore, petitioner demands that respondent, the Commissioner of the IRS, respond to this petition, advising petitioner and this court fully of the nature of their defense and to contain a clear and concise statement of every ground, together with the facts in support thereof on which the commissioner relies, and to provide strict proof that petitioner is a taxpayer or a person as defined by the code and the federal regulations. Pretty simple, right?
If you say so.
Okay. So that's the argument you need to make. The argument that you make and that you present is one of, hey, I don't think I'm a taxpayer. Actually, I know I'm not a taxpayer. According to the definitions, a taxpayer appears to be a corporation. I'm not a corporation. I'm a human being. Okay? And just to clear the air, this has nothing to do with the straw man, the all caps name, any of that stuff. Please, people, just get those stupid arguments out. They do you no good. You'll go nowhere far or nowhere fast.
There is trickery out there, and they've created a lot of things to delude the focus, as always.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, that's the thing that we're uncovering and people are waking up to is the trickery. Right, point simple, what you just read, the word person. You're, you know, and they get the opportunity to say, well, you know, behind the scenes that, well, you qualify as a person if you agree to it, and you're stupid enough to not know the difference. And that's just unfortunate. That's what we're dealing with. I do have a video at some point we can show. It's a compilation of people proving and stating, representatives and tax people, that there is no income tax law. So whenever you're ready.
Yeah, I mean, and we'll get to that here. Maybe we can show that towards the end.
Yep.
So what I want to do now is I want to say, okay, now that we know and understand that Congress only has power to tax commerce, that they have the power to charge taxes or privilege taxes on commercial things, right? So for example, if I owned a company, let's say I owned ABC Corporation, they have a power to tax the income of ABC Corporation. They can do that. But they do not have the power to tax me individually, because I have a right, as according to natural law, I have a right to earn a living. My labor is my property. I have a right to acquire, possess, and protect property. Your rights cannot be taxed. Period. Get it through your head, people. And your rights cannot be taxed.
They used to call your money wages. I don't know what the definition is, but it's switched from wages to income. So
no, they still call it wages.
They do?
They do. Yeah. And that's how they trick people, is they think that, oh, well, I earn wages, right? You know, my wages here, income here. And they're words of trickery. What's happened is again, how many times have I said this? The Bar Association has weaseled their way in, and they have taken plain and simple truths and they've distorted them. They've convoluted them so much so that people of average intelligence, and I'm not trying to belittle anyone. I'm just an average guy myself. I don't have a college degree. I don't have a doctorate. I don't have a piece of paper that says I'm smart, because I'm not. Okay. All I'm saying is that we the people have a right to earn a living. We the people have a right to keep what we earn. We cannot be taxed merely for the privilege or merely for the right of being able to earn what we make a living. Okay? That's not something that we can do. So, now that you know that, what do you do? Like in my case, what do you do if your employer refuses to stop withholding money from your paycheck and sends it to the IRS? What are you to do? Any thoughts, Justice?
You got to start filling out paperwork of some sort.
You do, unfortunately, have to fill out paperwork. Yes.
So you made a request.
What I did, and I'm just, again, full disclosure, the first time I did this was last year in 2022 for tax year 2021. What I did last year is not what I did this year, and I wouldn't do what I did last year ever, and I won't do what I did last year ever again, because I didn't know. Just so everyone's aware, what I did last year is I filed I filed a regular 1040, which is just a regular IRS tax income form, and I put zeros on everything for the most part, and then I requested my money back. There were some other forms, and I won't go into details on those forms. There's some other forms that I used. I don't think, I know I'm going to get that money at some point. I have to go through a process. So
in a 1040, they don't withhold your taxes. It's an independent contractor.
Yeah. So what it is, and this is the form here. So it's a form W-4 that your employer requires you to fill out.
Right.
Now, I have since submitted an updated W form, one that's been doctored. and I'll tell you the website that I got this from, so everybody can go there and they can purchase the program as well if you so choose. I have filled out a doctored W-4 and sent it to my employer. They're still withholding monies from me. Well, now I have prima facie evidence that they're committing a crime, and they can be held accountable if they don't take care of it. So that's another story for another day. But
are you afraid of retaliation, James?
No, heavens no.
Okay.
No. Yeah, whistleblower laws and things like that protect people against retaliation. And again, at this point, my enemy is not my employer. My enemy is the IRS. Okay.
As for all of us, yeah.
Exactly. So what I did was I filed again, full disclosure, I will never file it this way again because I didn't know at the time, but I filed a regular standard 1040 of a U.S. individual income tax form. So I filed that. Filed some other paperwork. I submitted some documentation that said that I didn't earn wages. I'm not a taxpayer. I'm not an employee. All of these things. Okay. That let's see here. Okay, here it is. That submission to the IRS, I submitted that. It was late. It was on August the 26th. I didn't get anything from the IRS until October. The first letter I got from the October from the IRS, at the very top, it says Frivolous Return Program. Okay. And it says, remember what I said? I'm not a taxpayer. This is what it says. Dear taxpayer. This is in reply to your correspondence received August the 26th. We have determined that the arguments you raised are frivolous and have no basis in law. Federal courts have consistently ruled against such arguments and imposed significant fines for taking such frivolous positions. If you persist in sending frivolous correspondence, we will not continue to respond to it. Our lack of response does not convey agreement or acceptance of the arguments stated. It goes on for a number. I mean, it was a 2 or 3 page document. Okay. So I looked at that and go, okay, what exactly in my return was frivolous? It doesn't say. It just says, we determined that the arguments you raised are frivolous. I didn't raise any arguments. I mean, I made statements of fact. Well, or so I thought. Okay. Right. So here is my reply, and I have no problem putting this up on the screen. Okay, let me get over here and share this.
This was the one to your 1040 or to the newest one?
To the 1040, yeah. I haven't gotten anything. As a matter of fact, the IRS hasn't even acknowledged they've received my newest one, which kind of ticks me off because it was filed back in February. That's going on 3 months now. Yeah, very irritating.
Did you get a return? Did they get it?
Oh, yeah, I have a return receipt here. They received it on February the 25th of this year. So, okay. By the way, this was signed by this lady here, Gardy La Rochelle. Interesting name. Okay. So here's what I said to Miss La Rochelle. I said, and I'm saying this is we because I filed this return as myself and as my wife. Okay. I said, we do not believe that the vague assertions made in this notice that was delivered on such amount to sufficiently formal controversion of the testimony in our return as to merit a specific response. For one thing, your notice fails to identify any actual flaw in our return. Further, while you make unspecific assertions that we have determined that the arguments raised are frivolous and have no basis in law, and if you persist in sending frivolous correspondence, we will continue not to respond to it. You will also allege, vaguely or otherwise, that our arguments either do not contain information on which the substantial correctness of the self-assessment can be judged, or contains information that on its face indicates that the self-assessment is substantially incorrect. One or the other of the latter characteristics must be true for a return to actually qualify as frivolous under the statute you cite. Now, if you look at the statute, this 26 USC 6702, it states those things. This, again, you guys have probably heard before, or maybe you haven't, but Brandon, the big sib, I was hoping to have him on today, but he got tied up at work. He always talks about look into the law, look into the 26 US code, and throw it back in their face, because these freaking people don't even know it.
They'll always leave a sentence and a paragraph out, won't they?
Yes. Okay. It says, further, your notice incorrectly asserts that we do not wish to comply with the law when you say, if you desire to comply with the law concerning your tax liability, you are encouraged to seek advice from a reputable tax practitioner or attorney. Exactly. How have we not complied with the law as you incorrectly assert? According to the statute that your notice purports to enforce, it is only certain requests for hearings, applications for payment, compromise agreements, and taxpayer assistant orders that qualify as frivolous and subject to penalty merely for suffering one of the two flaws to which you failed to indicate in the notice. You make no mention of the two flaws we referenced above according to statute. Notably, it is also only such submissions and not returns that can be afforded the withdraw and replace consideration that you vaguely refer in your line if you desire to comply with the law. It can only be assumed that you are seriously confused or have mistaken our return for someone else's submission. In the alternative, you may simply be trying to operate outside of your authority in making these extortionate threats. Please note that per 26 Code of Federal Regulation, when a return has actually been determined to be frivolous by someone in your agency, you are required to prepare and sign a substitute return. If any person required by the Internal Revenue Code or by the regulations to make a return makes willfully or otherwise a false, fraudulent, or frivolous return, the commissioner or other authorized Internal Revenue officer or employee shall make such a return from his own knowledge and from such information as he can obtain through testimony or otherwise. Did you guys know that? Did you know that, Justice?
No.
Isn't that amazing? Because I had no idea until I started doing research on this.
Mm-hmm.
So then I said, there is no indication that such a substitute return has been made. Had one been made, the allegation that our return is frivolous would still be unproven, of course. But at least the signature of your officer on the substitute, accepting legal risk for producing it, would convey good faith in making the accusation. But no substitute return has been made, and this is additional evidence that your notice is simply a deliberate fraudulent effort at witness tampering and extortion.
Oh, goodness.
So, I go on to say here, in addition, I said we made proper rebuttals using the correct forms for the incorrect assertion the companies made by listing payments as wages, as defined in the Internal Revenue Code. We reiterate again here that my employer is a private sector citizen, that I am, a private sector citizen, non-federal employee, employed by a private sector company as defined. I am not employed in a trade or business, nor am I an officer of a corporation. So, in sum, your notice is incomprehensible, contradicted by the evidence, obviously made in bad faith, and apparently is unrelated to any actual authority concerning frivolous returns. Nonetheless, experience has taught us that you are reflexively devious and exploitive. Even though your letter is on its face meaningless, we will operate on the presumption that it is sent as a pretext on the basis of which you will imagine some further actions to be legitimized should we fail to rebut. Therefore, you will find attached a sworn affidavit directed at each element of fact involved in the penalty with which you threaten us. In the absence of contradictory evidence of comparable focus and competence, you are entirely lacking any legal grounds to proceed with your threats, in our opinion. In any event, you bear the burden of proving your allegations, a burden which is not met by simply making vague assertions and threats.
Mhm.
We suggest you seek competent legal advice.
Awesome,
Okay,
James.
you like that?
Love it.
So that's what I sent. Okay,
Give it right
let's
back
see.
to them. The same threats they give you, right?
Yeah. So that was pretty quick after that. I never got a response from that Gardy La Rochelle. The next notice that I got was on October the 31st. And it says, "Dear taxpayer," it says, "We received your form, but we need more information to process the return accurately. Unless required otherwise, send us your reply within 20 days from the date of this letter." It says, "Enclose only the information we requested and any forms, schedules, or other information required to support your entries on your form." So this is what it says. To support the amount of wage or withholding entry, which I put there, please submit one of the following documentation: Form W-2, Form W-2G, Form 1099-R, or other forms reporting wage or withholding. Okay? So they're asking me for IRS specific documentation. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So here's what I said to them. Let me find it. Reply to 12. Where are you? Is it this one? I've got them all saved in a file here. I'm just trying to. Okay. Here is what I sent to them. Pretty short and sweet. Let me share this one and all. Okay. Whoops. I got something there I want to take out. This was sent to me by, somebody by the name of Shane Perry. So I said, "Dear Mr. Perry, we received your letter dated on this asking for documentation to support the withholding of a certain dollar amount on line 25D of Form 1040 we submitted. We included a Form 4852, which is an IRS form. I suggest you people go look it up. Substitute for Form W-2 with our with our filing that explained how we came up with the withholding numbers. Records from my employer were used to determine these amounts. A copy of the submitted form is attached here again for your reference." Then I just stated it again. "Neither my employer, payer, nor I engaged in any transactions with each other that were made in the course of wages, tips, and compensation and or trade or business as those terms are defined. We verified this as such with the signing of our 1040 under penalty of perjury." Hope this clears up any confusion. Pretty simple, right?
Yep.
Okay. The next document I get, that was in October. I heard nothing until February. Yes, Diesel, that would be considered a notice of rebuttal. So the question was, would that be considered notice of rebuttal? Yes. Yes, it would. So the next document I get is different from that. And it doesn't say "Dear taxpayer" anywhere. It just says, "We found an error on your 2021 form, which affects the following area of your return: tax payments. We changed your return to correct this error. As a result, you don't owe us, and we don't owe you a refund." Can you believe that?
You're getting closer.
Getting closer, but we're still not there. Okay. So it says why we changed your information. We didn't allow the amount claimed as federal income tax because forms W-2 or other supporting documents were not attached to your tax return. This is where I start to get frustrated, right? Because I did an IRS form, signed it under the penalty of perjury, and they're still doing this crap. Okay. So let me tell you my response to this letter.
Well, they have a lot of people paid handsomely to keep stringing you along.
Uh-huh. Yep. Actually, you know what? I don't have a problem with sharing exactly how much I'm owed. It's just money. Doesn't mean a big deal. I mean, it's a significant amount of money for me. Okay. So here's my next document that I sent to them. There was no name on that notice, by the way. So I said, to whom it may concern, we do not agree with the changes you made on our 2021 form individual income tax return. The unauthorized changes you made do not include withholdings labeled Social Security tax withheld, Medicare tax withheld, and Utah state income tax withheld. We provided to you on multiple occasions by the submission of Form 4852, attached here again. Therefore, changing the total income tax amount withheld from this, it was $25,000 to zero, an arbitrary number. How did you get zero for income tax withheld? Form 1040, line 25D under IRS calculations. Our Form 4852 showed $25,000. This is an egregious error on your part and must be rectified immediately. I said under this section, why we changed your information, it states we didn't allow this because you didn't have a W-2 form. I said on July the 14th, you received an original form attached to my 1040 individual income tax return. On October 31st, you received another copy. And finally, again, on November the 15th, attached as reference in response to another letter. How many more documents signed under the penalty of perjury do you need?
You are such a funny writer.
The provided reason above of why you changed our information is absolutely false, has no merit, and no bearing on the truth regarding our 2021 form. As a last-ditch effort, in order to get you to comply with the law, we have attached a redacted copy of my final pay stub from my employer detailing where the information on this form came from. Please use this as supporting documents and release the erroneous payments sent to you by my employer to us. On another note, your notice, however, did report some unalterable facts, of which you attested to per your tax calculation section. $0, zero adjusted gross income, zero taxable income, zero total tax. You are indeed correct, by your own admission, that $0 adjusted gross income and total tax is true, because you yourself have acknowledged the fact that we performed no taxable activities in 2021 with regard to our 2040 tax return, and therefore should have no withholdings whatsoever. We request that you uphold the law accordingly and refund us the $25,000 that is rightfully due to us via direct deposit as indicated on the form. According to 26 U.S.C. 3503, erroneous payments, it says any tax paid under this chapter by a taxpayer with respect to any period with respect to which he is not liable to tax under such chapter shall be credited against the tax, if any, imposed by such other chapter upon the taxpayer, and the balance, if any, shall be refunded. By admitting that we received no wages, you agreed not only that we received nothing subject to the normal federal income tax, but also that we received nothing subject to the FICA surtax, as well as the Utah state income tax, as both taxes fall on wages. The normal federal income tax, as well as the Utah state income tax, falls on wages received, and the FICA surtax falls on the first $118,000 of the same wages. With no wages, as in our case, there is no withholding to be withheld. Therefore, return me my freaking money. Then I cited a Supreme Court case here that talks about how FICA falls within the definition of wages. And then we said, as it is abundantly clear that you have received our Form 4852, a substitute for Form W-2 from us at this point, you have no valid grounds to withhold our private property. We expect the $25,000 to be sent to us accordingly. Okay? So that's what I sent in response. Then, it gets better. Then I get a letter on... So I sent that response on February the 25th of this year. Then I get a letter on March the 29th. And it says, Dear taxpayer, Thank you for your inquiry. We are working on your account. However, we need an additional 60 days to send you a complete response on what action we are taking on your account. We don't need any further information from you right now. That's the last correspondence that I've gotten from them. So, you're still on mute, Justice.
There's six. I turned it to mute when I checked the channels. It's your 60 days is almost up now.
Yeah.
What's the date of that letter?
May the 29th. Yep. So I actually called because I'm getting sick and tired of waiting.
Mm-hmm.
So I called these people and I said, what is going on? And the lady that I talked to, she's like, I don't see anything here.
Mm-hmm.
She says, give us some extra time. So I was like, okay, well, while I've got you, I want to know what's going on with my most recent return, asking for my money back, the updated one that I did. And she said, I don't see, excuse me. She says, I don't see anywhere that it's been received. And I said, well, I have a return receipt that the IRS stamped it. They got it. She says, it doesn't mean we didn't get it. It just means it hasn't been processed. She says, we're horribly understaffed. It's taking longer than normal. It's like, yada, 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 yada. Okay, whatever. So that's where that is.
That's good. It's a good one.
You like
James.
that?
I love it.
Okay. So let me tell you where I found this information.
So we can let's when you're ready, set up a workshop and go through the forms and filling them out and stuff. So everybody can jump on the bandwagon.
Yeah, I'm happy to. However, like I said, the information that I found for my most recent tax filing is behind a paywall. Again, this is not my site. I didn't put this information out there. I didn't take the time to put this stuff out there. Somebody else did, but let me share with you what that site is. So some of you guys have heard this. And again, please, disclaimer. Take with a grain of salt what you see on this site. Not everything on here is 100% true. Exercise your own discernment. It doesn't mean I endorse this 100%. Okay? With that being said, yes, thank you. There's our disclosure. With that being said, the information that I found from my most recent return was on this website here. It's SEDM as in Michael, Sam Edward David Michael.org. Stands for Sovereignty, Education, and Defense Ministry. Now, they have a membership agreement, member subscriptions. There's a number of different things here. There's this one right here is where I went to. In the middle of the screen, it says filing returns. This is what I went to. It brings up a different window as it's opening now, and it says, oh, you have to sign up for this. Okay. So there's the member subscriptions page. I don't remember how much the member subscription is.
It reasonable?
It was a couple $100. It wasn't terrible, but the member subscription gets you. Here it is, right here, $220. Which is what I was like, you know what, $220, whatever. But you get access to all of their stuff on their site for a full year, and that's everything here. There's so much stuff here. Right to travel, dealing with the police, common law and equity litigation, identification, information for pastors, discovery, FOIA, Privacy Act, dealing with corrupt judges, filing returns, laws of property. There's so many things here, but the process that I did this time around, as opposed to what I did before, was I filed a 1040 here. I'll put it up on my screen here. I'll just go to irs.gov. So if you come here to, where is it? Forms. If you come here to forms, let's go to, let me search for here it is. Non-resident alien.
What was that again, James?
SE, D as in dog, M as in Mary.org. This is the form that I filed this year. It's called the 1040-NR, U.S. Non-Resident Alien Income Tax Return. It's not a simple process. This website here, the Sovereignty, Education, and Defense Ministry, it goes through all of it. It has a step-by-step process. It was pretty simple to follow. Like I said, I'm not a genius. I'm just some guy of average intelligence. I was able to figure it out. But this is what I filed for this year. You can see it looks very familiar. If any of you have ever filed 1040s, it's filled out along the same lines. But I'm expecting a completely different response than what I got the first time around.
So now, how does this, as a non-resident alien, obviously everybody's question is, but you live in America, so
right.
What's that hurdle?
So
this is the sovereign, the people that say whatever that thing is called that we say the patriot mythology, just so you know.
Sovereign citizens? Yeah.
Yes. There was one guy that was teaching people how to use this as well, but he was doing the whole, you can go to the car lot and get a free car stuff with it too, but
yeah. So Chris Hauser is that guy's name.
Yes.
He's now sitting in federal prison.
Yep.
Do not, and I repeat, do not do what he says to do. Okay. That is completely different.
Right.
Again, I did my own
this because
exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. I did my own research. I dove into the things that the Sovereignty, Education, and Defense Ministry was teaching, and it makes sense. It's founded in law, and it makes sense because it's founded in God's law, otherwise known as common law. Okay. Yeah, they have a YouTube channel, C to AZ. Glad to see you're here. Thank you for being here. Their YouTube channel is posted right here. For those of you listening, it's youtube.com/@SEDMORG. Check them out. So the difference being is this. When you fill out the W-4, you're agreeing to be a U.S. individual because, again, a U.S. individual under the tax definitions is a taxpayer, right? So if you, like in my case, and again, what I just showed you is for those of you who you're technically classified as a W-2 employee. Now let me back up a little bit. Why would employers want you to be a W-2 employee? Why can't they just give you all of your money? Why do they have to withhold anything from your check?
That's a great question. Answer that for us.
I'll tell you why. Tax breaks.
Oh, for the corporation.
Because they get tax, they get tax deductions and tax breaks off the taxes of their business income.
Okay.
Because a W-2 employee is shown as a dependent, kind of. I mean, it's more like a liability. I don't want to get into, again, I'm not a tax expert. I don't want to get into those details, but that's the idea behind it.
Well, that was going to be one of my questions to you is, let's say the average person goes in and decides they want to ask this of their employer. Are they looked, again, retaliation, but not retaliation? Are they looked unfavorably upon now as a thorn in the side of this employer?
It really depends on who you're working for. So okay. I know, for example, Brandon Sibley, the big Sib, when he went and talked to his employer is a smaller employer. And he just said, listen, I just want you to pay me $10.99. Don't withhold of anything. I'll pay my own taxes. Right. His employer was okay to do that. Okay. I asked my employer to do the same thing. My employer came back and said, no, we're going to do this anyway.
You have a big employer, big tax break there.
Yeah. I work for a Fortune 100 company. That's all they're worldwide. So yeah. The likelihood I was going to get the response I wanted was pretty slim. So I was like, okay, that's fine. I'll fight my battle. Again, pick your battles, guys. Fight the battles where you want to fight them. So I'm just like, for me, I'm like, okay, that's fine. I know I can fight and win the IRS easier than I can fight and win my employer. And I don't want to jeopardize my position here because of a difference of opinion of what the law states. So even if I take him to court, it's a difference of opinion there. So, so that's the route that I chose to go. Now, the reason why I used the non-resident alien form was because based on the information I was reading from that website, they suggested this is the best way to get monies that were sent to the IRS unlawfully on your behalf back. So they've done it before. They've had people who have done it before and have been successful. I mean, it's for those of you who have just been the good little taxpayer and have just filed your taxes online and 2 weeks later you get your refund. It's not fast. Okay. You can't expect it to be able to electronically file this. You can't expect to get your return within a couple of weeks. No, this is a process. And the IRS knows that more and more people are waking up to this, which is why they're sending me those letters they sent me.
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't want people to wake up. They want you to believe they can throw you in prison. They want you to believe that they can take your life. They want you to believe that they can put a lien on your property. But remember, guys, no one, and I mean no one, can be deprived of their life, their liberty, or their property without due process of law in a court of law. End of story. Okay?
Yep.
That's pretty much what I wanted to show you guys.
So the employers, in essence, lose money if they're not pulling taxes out of your
Exactly.
paycheck. So definitely not an easy battle. But some employers, does every employer get the tax write-off?
Yeah, it depends on the size of employer, right? Okay. So most of the larger employers, I'd say 50 employees or more, yes, they're going to do that. So Harrington says it here, they're tax write-offs. Yeah, that's what they are. Right. So that's tax there again. Every single business, no one goes into business to pay taxes. No one. If they do, they're stupid. So every single business is going to look for a way to reduce its tax liability within the tax code. So that's why they want as many W-2 employees as they can get, because that gets them a reduction in tax liability on the business side of taxes, not on the other side. So
right, which is the only legal.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So to reiterate a couple of things, okay? Congress has authority to tax commerce and commercial activities. The 16th Amendment did not, and I repeat, it did not give Congress the authority to tax you on your personal monies or wages or income, whatever you want to call it, derived from your labor. It does not give them that authority. They want you to believe it does. They want you to be the good little citizen and continue paying your taxes and to don't fight and to don't argue about it. But I'm here to tell you, just like our channel states, the Justice Revolution, a revolution is coming. A great awakening is happening. More and more good, warm-blooded Americans are waking up and realizing, oh my gosh, the tyranny we're living under today is worse than the tyranny our founding fathers went through under King George.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, okay. Alexis brings up a very good question. He says, can you retroactively do this for past years? I filed an extension for this year because I woke up. I am woke. Thanks. And by the way, shout out to Alexis, because Alexis always goes through these videos and puts timestamps on the different things and subjects we do. Thank you so much for doing that. Alexis, the short answer is I don't know. From what I was reading, the information that I found on the Sovereignty and Education Defense Ministry website is the likelihood of being able to go back and correct old returns is pretty slim. So I just decided, okay, I'm going to pick the battles. I'm going to start now and go forward. You guys can keep whatever you took from me before, but now's where it's today's the new day.
Yep.
So I don't know.
I've got some questions starred there, James. Can you see that? If you want to.
Yeah, let me.
I'm kind of putting them aside as we go through.
Okay, here's another one from Etane. Could you FOIA the Department of Treasury for all documents proving that you were a person? Absolutely. Absolutely, you can. And that's very similar to the tax petition document that Steve Emerson wrote up. Is in his case, he took it to the tax court and said, hey, they need to bring their evidence into this court to prove that I'm a taxpayer. So Harrington says, hey, y'all, to file this, we need to have a notice of deficiency. Oh, I think he means in order to file this, do we need to have a notice of deficiency, or can we just request they demonstrate how we are taxpayers? Generally speaking, and again, I didn't go the route of filing the tax court petition because I wasn't sent a notice of deficiency. So, like, I was like, in my case, I'm like, well, how do I how do I file a petition if I don't have something to base it off of? So I had to do it a roundabout way. Like I said, I won't ever do it that way again. Going forward, I'm gonna go the process that I did through sedm.org. But Harrington, I would suggest jumping on to sedm.org. Look at the processes that they suggest, and if you haven't filed, I would suggest filing the way that they talk about. It's just simpler, and especially if you're like me, if you have an employer who withheld your money unlawfully and sent it to the IRS unlawfully, and you want it back. So that's what I would suggest you do. So, okay. Diesel says, I'm under the assumption you still be classed as a volunteer taxpayer. Diesel, I'm not sure what you mean by that. Maybe you can expound on what you're talking about that, because I think maybe you're talking about if you file a regular 1040. So I'm not sure. So, okay. But anyway, that's what I wanted to share with you guys. I hope this was good information. Please, again, feel free to reach out to me on our Telegram group if you have questions. If there's anything I can help you with, I'm on my neck right now in a number of things that I'm working on personally. Justice and I have some things we're working on. But with that, Justice, why don't we show the video you're talking about, and then we'll close this one out.
All right. Let's see. Okay. So this is a compilation of different people, senators and IRS people discussing tax law that there is.
Okay.
There is no law. And to date, nobody has been able to show that there is a law for the average American citizen working day in and day out to pay an income tax.
But We the People Foundation for Constitutional Education put a full-page ad in the USA Today on July 7th, 2000. And within the body of that ad was a $50,000 challenge for anyone that could show the law. And to me, $50,000 is a lot of money. So I went after that and did the research based on the fact that I thought, let's put this baby to bed. I'm hearing all these rumors. I'm going to kill two birds with one stone. I'll answer these people's questions that are asking me, and then I'll win this $50,000. And, based on the research that I did throughout the year 2000 and that I'm still doing, I have not found that law. I've asked Congress. We've asked a lot of people in the IRS commissioners, helpers. They can't answer, because if they answer, the American people are going to know that this whole thing is a fraud.
There is no law. There is no law that requires the average American worker in the private sector to pay a direct unapportioned tax on their labor and compensation for services. There is no law.
I really expected that, of course, there's a law that you can point to in the law book, the code that requires you to file a tax return. Of course there is. Maybe I don't know what it is right then as he was speaking to me, but sure. So naively, I agreed to go off and research it and get back to him. 3.5 months later, I was at that point where I couldn't find the statute that clearly made a person liable, at least not me and most people I know. And I had no choice in my mind except to resign.
I had to leave the IRS because I presented evidence that I had accumulated indicating that the agency was violating the law and violating people's rights. And I asked the agency for a response to my sincere concerns. And the answer I got was that they would not respond to my concerns and that they would provide me with the paperwork necessary to tender my resignation.
You can look through the statutes and look for the law that requires you to pay. And when you do that, you can't identify a law that requires the average person in America who earns a wage and works in private business to pay an income tax.
American citizens, along with the foundation, have been asking the IRS to specifically provide them with the underlying legal foundation upon which
they administer and enforce the personal income tax laws in our country.
At the national level, when people would attempt to contact somebody of a much higher authority, say the commissioner, same kind of thing. They would get answers that were in effect non-answers.
You have to understand that an agency which will unlawfully impose a tax that doesn't exist is not going to care. If we, the people, don't know what our rights are, they're not going to tell us.
If Americans just learned that the IRS was actually knowingly deceiving them, that would be enough for them to rise up and put a stop to it.
100% of what is collected is absorbed solely by interest on the federal debt. All individual income tax revenues are gone before 1 nickel is spent on the services taxpayers expect from government. People have been told, that you need this income tax system to fund government, which is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, my question is, well, if that's true, how did we fund government from 1776 to 1913?
The main purpose of the income tax.
Very good question.
Not to raise revenue, but to redistribute wealth and to control society.
A lot of people might say, well, gee, if there wasn't an income tax, what would happen to education? They don't understand that education is paid for the most part, out of state and local taxes, your property tax. People might say, well, how are we going to build and maintain our highways if there's no money coming in to the government? We need our highways. There is a tax on every gallon of gasoline that people buy. Proceeds from the income tax do not pay for highway construction.
I believe that in both spirit and substance, our tax system has come to be un-American. Death and taxes may be inevitable, but unjust taxes are not.
This small booklet includes the Constitution of the United States, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence. This is a document that every citizen should read. It's a document which freed an entire nation. This is the Internal Revenue Code, and this document, and the unlawful application of this document by the Internal Revenue Service has enslaved the nation that this document attempted to free.
Amen.
So good. So good.
Yep.
Is that going to get us flagged on YouTube, by the way?
I don't think so. They talk about VAXINES.
Okay, then we should be all right.
Well, based on everything we talked about. But if you guys want to see this again, it's on our BitChute channel. It's Crashing Justice. I put that up a long time ago. So
yeah. Luke says this, Luke 10:19, and great scripture, by the way. This is honestly the saddest compilation of hard truth I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Isn't it though? What have we all been told? We've all been told you must do this, otherwise there won't be any money for the government. You guys, I'm here to tell you right now, if we never paid another dime, if every single American in this country never paid another dime in income taxes, there would still be more than enough money to fund your state government and the federal government based off of the revenue they would receive from sales taxes on everything that we buy. We've already had the discussion about property taxes. So there was one little thing I want to rebut in that video. Sometimes you're going to get those property tax state notices that say what the money's used for. That's also a lie. It's not true.
And
it
then
is not true.
Taxing the school coming out of your property taxes, which is awesome.
Now, it is true that monies are apportioned from property taxes, which are levied on corporations, but it's not supposed to be levied against individuals with private property. We talked about that before. If you guys have any questions about that, watch the video that we did with Alphonse. So a couple of last questions, and we're going to wrap this one up for today. Alexis, good questions. You said you did Obamacare last year, and you think that when you do, you promise to file a return. So you did file but claim no income, correct? That is true. That's what I did. Again, my return that I filed for tax year 2021 that I filed last year in 2022, I had Obamacare that year as well, so I had to file. I did all of that stuff through there, but this time around, didn't even bother with it. Okay. He or she, and I apologize. I believe it's Alexis is a he, and I apologize, Alexis, for not knowing ahead of time. Also, is the employer is told to treat you as an employee, How do you convince them to treat you as a private contractor? How to supersede IRS directions? That's a great question, one that I haven't figured out. So my employer, I claim exempt on my W-4 that I fill out. So I don't want them withholding any federal taxes. They still withhold Social Security, Medicare, and state taxes. I didn't want them to withhold anything. They told me no. So every year since I claim exempt, yes. So every year since I claim exempt, I have to file a new W-4 with them. So they actually wanted me to go to a website where I would just select my elections, but I'm like, I'm not doing that this time around. So I printed off the W-4 that I found on the sedm.org website, and I emailed it to my payroll team, and they accepted that. Now, it's doctored. They didn't even bother to look at it because it looks just like the regular W-4. So that's on them now, but that's what I did. So
when you say doctored, what do you mean?
There's verbiage on it that rebuts the presumption that I'm an employee, that I'm earning wages, and that these were made in the course of trade and business. So okay, that's what that means. But anyway, you all, we're coming up on an hour and a half here. Great show. I hope it's been a good show. I mean, I know you guys have been asking for this show for a long time. I've been hesitant to talk about it because I was hoping to have a check in hand, but still, I can talk about this. Etane brings up another question. What about the W-4T, Steve Emerson? I don't know, Etane. I'm not familiar if Steve has done anything with that. I have no idea. So maybe you find something, post it in our Telegram group and let everybody know, because that'd be great. So. But with that, you guys, I do want to let you know we are not going to have a show next week. I am out. My wife and I just recently celebrated our 20-year anniversary. Woohoo! Go us!
Yeah.
I can't even believe 20 flipping years. Anyway, we just celebrated our 20-year anniversary. So as a celebration, we are taking, I don't know what you want to call it, a second honeymoon, if you will. We're going down to Mexico for a week next week. So just me and the wife, the kids are staying home.
Nice.
We are both excited and terrified at the fact that our kids are staying home.
Well,
so thank you, Etane.
Taking care of them, don't you? I would hope.
Yeah, Etane says congratulations. Thank you. I love her to death. She is my rock. She is everything. Here I can show you guys.
James, after 20 years, I'm so touched.
I know. Let me see if I can find. I'll share a picture here of the entire screen.
Cool. Yeah, she's on our old pictures. What a beautiful family.
So that's my family there. This is my nephew. He's 18, and then I've got 5 kiddos. My youngest are twins, and then that's my wife there. So
James is a machine. He manages that family and to do all this stuff for people. And
I don't know how I do it.
I don't know how to do it either.
And I do it without any drugs. So I don't know how I do it. Or alcohol.
Power of God, my friend. Justice is you're called for this. That's why. That's what I feel.
Yes. Oh, that's awesome. Diesel said been married for 30 years. That's awesome.
Yeah. Congratulations to you too. Yeah.
So anyway, we will be off next Friday, and I'm thinking about possibly moving the show to a Tuesday or a Wednesday, sometime during the week. Fridays are getting a little busier now, especially with the summer coming up. So I will keep you guys all posted. But in the meantime, everybody, God bless you all. Thank you for tuning in. Somebody said earlier, let me find it where it is. I think it was up here. Yes, Etane said this. I ask this all the time. Smash that like button to promote the algorithm. Yes, you guys, please, please, please. And I'm not doing this because I'm asking to purchase things. Again, you guys know I do this. I don't do this for money. I do this to educate my brothers and sisters because I love this country of mine, and I love the freedoms that we should be enjoying. And I want everybody to enjoy the same freedoms that I feel like we should be enjoying. So promote this video, hit that like button. It helps to get the video up higher on the algorithms so other people who don't know about us can see us. Hopefully they take an interest in income taxes. Do I have to pay those?
Let me explain that real quick. Since I do marketing and social media marketing, all they're looking for is a mass amount of eyeballs that they can advertise on. Now, we don't have to monetize, but what would happen is if we start getting 100,000 likes or views or whatever, they're going to want to come after us to advertise, because those advertisers are big money to them, and that's what they're looking for. So the more engagement on the channel, the higher you start to rank with the algorithms, because you're a potential advertising platform. So that's what
that's like all these massive YouTubers, right? Like there's the Ryan's toy review or whatever that my kids are always watching. There's Jake Paul is the other one that I'm thinking of. All of these weirdos that just go out there. Yeah, that's what they've made their living off of YouTube. Now, again, if we get to a point where we have enough subscribers and we have enough engagement with the videos, and then that we could do that, man, I would feel so blessed. Again, I still wouldn't charge you guys anything, but we could take that and we could do some good with it. So that, I mean, if I could support my family, you guys just saw I have a fairly large family.
Yeah.
If I could support my family doing this, I will.
Yeah.
And then I will spend more time working with you guys, helping you through the challenges that you're facing. But we're not there yet. We will be one day. Justice is a fantastic producer. She knows this stuff inside and out. We have a lot to do. We have a lot of ground to cover. But until then, God bless you all. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend. God bless all of our men and women who are serving, who have served for this weekend. It's Memorial Day weekend. We're celebrating our beautiful brothers and sisters in the armed forces, and those who have given it all so that we can enjoy these freedoms. So with that, I bid you a farewell. We will see you guys all on the next episode in a couple weeks.
Okay. Blessings, everyone. Bye now.